In lesson 4.4, we're going to be converting liquid measures, milliliters and liters. You will need your whiteboard, whiteboard marker, eraser, and your math journal. Let's go ahead and start with the warm-up. On your whiteboard, go ahead and figure out these extended facts. Answers only for number one, number two, and number three. Go ahead and pause the video as needed. So number one, 5 times 4 is 20, and then we add 1 0. 2 times 6 is 12, and then count the 0, 1 0. And 9 times 5 is 45, and add your 0 on the end. Go ahead and erase your whiteboard, and let's do a couple more like that, extended to the hundreds. So number 1, 2, and 3. Go ahead and do answers only and carefully count your zeros and add them to the product or the answer when you multiply. Go ahead and pause the video. Number 1, 6 times 7 is 42, and then I count 1, 2, 3 zeros. 1, 2, 3 zeros. 7 times 8 is 56 with 1, 2, 3 zeros. And lastly, 9 times 4 is 36 with 1, 2, 3 zeros. All right, we're going to go ahead and talk about milliliters and liters today. So if you think of the question, and this is not in your math journal yet, we're still on our whiteboards. Do you think an aquarium that might hold fish holds 60 liters or 60 milliliters of water? And then the second question is, would a dog drink 2/10 of a liter of water or 200 milliliters? Notice the abbreviation ML has a capital L. So here are some things to help you kind of get an idea of what milliliters are for. If you were going to get a shot, let's say a flu shot or a vaccination of some sort, they would measure that in milliliters, a very small amount. Or if you were taking some cough syrup, those would be very small measurements. These things are about a liter. A big Gatorade, a carton of milk, or the pop, but notice this is 2 liters. In the United States, we don't typically measure in liters. We do cups and quarts and gallons, like you buy a gallon of milk or a quart of orange juice. But soda pop in bottles like this are always called 2 liters. So that will help give you an idea. So if we go back to the question, do you think an aquarium holds 60 liters? Like 60 of these for the fish, or 60 milliliters? And if you notice, I'm trying to see what this goes up to, but I believe it goes up to this entire syringe goes up to 100 milliliters. So which one makes sense? 60 liters, 60 of the Gatorade size, or less than this syringe? Go ahead and say it out loud. Obviously, 60 liters. This much of water wouldn't do very much in an aquarium. Number 2, would a dog drink 2/10 of a liter? So if you think of this being in 10 equal parts, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now, obviously, they are not equal parts because as you go up on the bottle gets narrower. But do you think a dog would drink that much or 200 of these? Well, let's look over at the side for a minute. 200 milliliters. Look at this for a minute. 200 milliliters is the same as 2/10 of a liter. So they tried to trick you on that one. They are the same. So that's what we're going to talk about today is milliliters and liters. Sometimes you can look at cans of pop and it will give it to you in ounces, but it will also give it to you in milliliters. So a can of pop usually has about 355 milliliters. That may help you understand a little bit more of the size of it. We're going to go ahead and work in your math journal. So if your math journal isn't right beside you, go ahead and open it up. We are on lesson 4.4. And so you're going to move to journal page 114. Journal page 114. On the side, you see measuring liquids in metric units. You have starting at 1 liter or 1,000 milliliters, all the way up to 9 liters, or what we would call 9,000 milliliters. We're going to go ahead and complete the tables for numbers 1 and 2. Just like we did for centimeters to millimeters or centimeters to meters, we're going to convert by multiplying or dividing. So it takes 1,000 milliliters to equal 1 liter. Here's also a little visual. This big water bottle is a liter or 1,000 milliliters. This extra large water bottle also is a liter or 1,000 milliliters. So if on number 1, we're going to multiply by 1,000 when we move from liters to milliliters. Let's go ahead and fill in the missing numbers. 1 milliliter or 1 liter is the same as 1,000 milliliters. 3 liters would be the same as 3,000 milliliters. I'm going to skip the next one for just a minute. 10 liters would be the same as 10,000 milliliters, and 22 liters would be the same as 22,000 milliliters. And obviously, we must have to use very small measurements of liquid to get or even use milliliters. Now let's go the opposite direction. We're going to divide by 1,000 or take off 3 zeros. So 5,000 milliliters would be the same as 5 liters. 14,000 would be the same as 14 liters. And again, if we go to the gas station, we buy gasoline by the gallon. You go other places in the world, they buy gasoline by the liter. Here we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to go ahead and measure using decimals as well. Notice that you can use a conversion chart over here. So when we had 3,000 milliliters, it was the same as 3 liters. 5,000 milliliters was the same as 5 liters, and so forth. Now, what happens when we get to 1 5/10 of a liter? Well, first of all, if we take the 1 full liter, that would be 1,000, and then 5/10 is the same as saying a half. So half of that would be 500. So 1 5/10 liters would be the same as 1,500 milliliters. Now, if we go to 4.4, or what we would read as 4 4/10, we go right here, and notice it's the same as 4,400 milliliters. 7 5/10. Well, we don't have 7 5/10 here, but it's halfway between here and here. So it'd be 7,000, and then the 5 represents the 500. 8 8/10. 8 8/10 is right here. It would be the same as 8,800 milliliters. Now let's go ahead and figure out the last one. Notice that doesn't go up that far on our table to the left, but giving given what we know about the previous ones, it would equal 9 and, take a look at this number, 9 1/10. Number 3 says to shade the number of liters and find the number of milliliters. So I'm going to go to the next page so I have my lines, but I'm going to go ahead and shade 2 2/10. So I'm going to shade up to 2. And if you notice, before I shade that, this would be 2/10, 4/10, 6/10, 8/10, and 1 whole. 1 2/10, 1 4/10, 1 6/10, 1 8/10, 2 wholes. So it goes up by 2/10. So if I'm going to shade 2 2/10, I'm going to shade one line above the 2 liters. The 2 liters would be the same as 2,000, and 2/10 is the same as 200. Shade 6/10 of a liter, so it's going to be less than a liter, so 2/10, 4/10, 6/10. Shade in 6/10 of a liter. And remember, it takes 1,000 milliliters, and we just have 6/10 of that, what we would call 600 milliliters. And lastly, 1 9/10. So this would be 1 2/10, 1 4/10, 1 6/10, 1 8/10, and 2 whole. So if you think about it, it has to be between 1 8/10 and 2 whole liters. So halfway between that line, and we write that as the 1 liter is 1,000, and the 9/10, I can put zeros behind that, it doesn't matter, doesn't change the value of it, 1,900 milliliters. We're just going to go ahead and do the top one on page 115. It says solving liquid measurement number stories. Solve the problem, complete the measurement, scale, and convert. The hotel's kitchen uses about 2 liters of soap to wash dishes every day. Soap is sold in 4-liter jugs. About how many milliliters of soap are left over after 1 day? So the first thing we need to do is fill in how many milliliters represents 1 liter, 2 liters, 3 liters, and 4 liters. So we multiply by 1,000. So 1 liter is the same thing as 1,000 milliliters. 2 liters is the same thing as 2,000 milliliters. 3,000 milliliters. And 4,000 milliliters. Now what we need to do is to figure out how many milliliters of soap are left over after 1 day, and they use 2 liters of soap to wash dishes every day, and they're sold in 4-liter jugs. So I would take the 4-liter jug, subtract the 2 liters that are used every day. That leaves me with 2 liters, and now we're going to convert that to milliliters. So we're going to multiply by 1,000. So we get 2,000 milliliters. We'll go ahead in our small groups and work on the last 2 above the blue line. So go ahead and check back to Schoology to see what else you need to do for today's lesson.